She handed him the tiny box, her hands shaking with hope. But instead of joy, he laughed. A cold, mocking laugh that shattered her world. "I don't want this child, Zoya. Sign the papers and disappear." She signed without a single tear. But then, she made one strange request. "Let me stay here for just 90 days. After that, you'll never see my face again." He had no idea that she wasn't staying for his money. She was staying because she only had 3 months to live. And what he discovered on day 43 would bring a billionaire to his knees. This is the story of a woman who died so her child could live, and the man who learned what love truly costs, when it was already too late. Before we dive into today's heart-wrenching journey, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button right now, because stories like this, stories that remind us what truly matters in life, they need to be heard. And please tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? The amber liquid exploded against white marble as Ethan Miller hurled his whiskey glass into the fireplace. Flames hissed and danced higher. Outside the floor, to ceiling windows, Manhattan glittered like scattered diamonds. But inside this penthouse, the air had turned to ice. Zoya stood near the doorway, her brown fingers trembling around a small velvet box. She had practiced this moment 100 times in the mirror. She had imagined his smile, the way his grey eyes might soften, how he would lift her off her feet and spin her around like they did in the movies she watched on her phone while he worked late into the night. "What is that?" His voice cut through the silence like a blade. She stepped forward, her bare feet silent on the cold floor. "Ethan, I have something to tell you." He didn't look at her. He was staring at his phone, jaw clenched, typing something furiously. The blue light made his sharp features look even harder. She had married this face 2 years ago, in a courthouse ceremony with no guests. His mother hadn't come. His friends hadn't known. She told herself it was because he was a private man, that his love was quiet and reserved. "Ethan," her voice cracked, "please look at me." He finally raised his eyes. There was nothing warm there, nothing soft. Just irritation, like she was an assistant who had interrupted an important call. She opened the box with shaking hands. The pregnancy test sat on cotton, the 2 pink lines screaming into the space between them. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air. She waited for the world to change, for him to become the man she had convinced herself existed somewhere beneath the cold exterior. Instead, he laughed. It wasn't a joyful sound. It was sharp and cruel, bouncing off the marble and glass, mocking her hope. He walked to the bar and poured another drink, this time not bothering with ice. He took a long swallow. "How convenient." "What?" The word barely escaped her lips. "I said, how convenient." He turned to face her fully now, and she saw something in his expression that made her stomach drop. "You think I don't know what this is? A trap, a golden ticket. Get pregnant, lock down the Miller fortune." "Ethan, I would never save it." He pulled open a drawer in his desk and retrieved a manila envelope. It landed on the glass coffee table, between them with a slap that made her flinch. "I've been waiting for the right moment. Guess this is it." She stared at the envelope like it was a living thing that might bite her. "Open it," he commanded. Her hands moved without her permission. Inside were papers, legal papers. The words blurred together, but certain phrases jumped out at her like accusations. irreconcilable differences, division of assets, dissolution of marriage, divorce papers. She said it out loud because her brain couldn't process it silently. Smart girl. He finished his drink and set the glass down too hard. I need you to understand something, Zoya. I married you in a moment of weakness. You were sweet and innocent, and I thought maybe that would fix something broken in me. But you know what I realized? I don't need fixing. I need a partner who understands my world. Someone who belongs in it. I tried to belong. Her voice was so small. I changed everything about myself. I learned to like your food, your music, your friends. My friends think you're a charity case. The words hit her like fists. They ask me constantly why I'm with someone so beneath me. And honestly, I'm tired of defending it. She felt something crack inside her chest. Not her heart. That was already broken. Something deeper. The foundation she had built her whole sense of self upon. There's someone else. He said it casually, like he was mentioning the weather. Victoria. My ex. The one I should have married in the first place. She understands me. She challenges me. She's not constantly crying and needing reassurance like a child. Zoya had met Victoria once at a gala. A woman made of ice and ambition, with white skin that caught the light, and green eyes that assessed everything like a predator. She had looked at Zoya the way someone might look at a stain on expensive upholstery. You've been seeing her. The question came out as a whisper. For 6 months. He shrugged. She's everything you're not, Zoidant. Powerful. The kind of woman who should be on the arm of a man like me, the baby. She put her hand on her still, flat stomach. What about? I don't want this child. He said it so easily, like he was declining dessert at a restaurant. A man like me needs an heir, sure. But not like this. Not from someone like you. I need a queen, Zoya. Not a charity case I picked up because I was feeling benevolent. The room tilted. She grabbed the edge of the sofa to steady herself. Sign the papers. He pushed a pen across the table toward her. My lawyers have been generous. You'll get $50,000. That's more than enough for someone from your background. Take it and disappear. She looked at the pen, at the papers, at the man she had loved with every molecule of her being. The man she had left her family for, her culture, her language. She had learned to drink coffee instead of chai. To say, "You're welcome," instead of "my pleasure." To straighten her naturally curly hair, because he once mentioned he preferred it sleek. And he had been sleeping with Victoria for 6 months. Something shifted in Zoya then. The tears that had been building behind her eyes dried up. Her hands stopped shaking. She picked up the pen with fingers were suddenly steady. I'll sign. Her voice came out clear and strong. Ethan blinked, surprised. He had expected begging. Tears. Drama. But I have one condition. He laughed. You're not in a position to make conditions. Let me stay in the guest house. She met his eyes without flinching. For 90 days. After that, you will never see my face again. You won't hear from me. You won't be bothered by me. I'll vanish like I never existed. Why would you want to stay? Suspicion crept into his voice. I have nowhere else to go. It was partly true. And I need time to figure things out. 90 days. That's all I ask. You won't even know I'm here. He studied her, trying to find the angle. But her face was calm, almost peaceful, like she had accepted her fate. Fine. He shrugged. 90 days. But you don't come into the main house. You don't attend any events. And if Victoria asks, you're already gone. Understood. Understood. She signed the papers right there. Each stroke of the pen, feeling like she was crossing out her own existence. When she finished, she stood and walked toward the door with her head high. Zuya. She paused but didn't turn around. I hope you understand this isn't personal. It's just business. I need someone who adds value to my life. She finally looked back at him. The chandelier light caught her brown skin, making her glow like burnished gold. In that moment, she looked almost ethereal. I understand perfectly, Ethan. You want someone who adds value to your life. But you never learn to see value in things that don't come with a price tag. She closed the door softly behind her, leaving him alone in his palace of glass and marble and emptiness. What Ethan didn't know was that earlier that day, in a small clinic in Harlem, another doctor had handed Zoya a different kind of paper. A diagnosis: stage 4 glioblastoma. Inoperable, untreatable with a pregnancy. She had 3 months to live. Maybe 4 if she was lucky. The baby growing inside her was a miracle, and a death sentence wrapped together. The tumor was aggressive, spreading through her brain like dark fingers. Every day it pressed harder against the parts of her that made her herself. The headaches had started months ago. The blurred vision. The moments where she forgot simple words or couldn't remember why she had walked into a room. But she had kept it hidden because she knew the truth about her marriage. It was already over. It had been over long before Victoria, before the coldness, before the contempt. Maybe it had never really begun. In the guest house, she sat on the edge of the narrow bed and placed both hands on her stomach. The room was small and plain, nothing like the luxury of the main house. But it felt more like home than anywhere she had lived in the past 2 years. It's just you and me now, she whispered to the tiny life inside her. I'm going to make sure you get to exist, even if I don't. Outside, rain began to fall on Manhattan, washing the streets clean while leaving everything dirty underneath. Ethan stood at his window, watching the storm, feeling nothing at all. He texted Victoria. It's done, she signed. We can move forward. The response came immediately. About time. I'm already planning the engagement party. Something tasteful. Nothing like that courthouse disaster. He smiled and poured another drink. In 90 days, this would all be a memory. The brown girl from Brooklyn who had believed in fairy tales. The mistake he had made in a moment of weakness. He had no idea that in 90 days, he would be the one begging. That the girl he threw away would become the ghost that haunted every corner of his hollow empire. The rain fell harder, and in the guest house, Zoya opened a notebook and began to write letters to a child she would never see grow up. Week 1 passed like a slow death. Zoya moved through the guest house like a ghost, and Ethan convinced himself he didn't notice. But he did. The way the light stayed on late into the night. The sound of soft crying that carried across the garden when he stepped onto his balcony for air. He told himself it was satisfaction he felt, not guilt. Victoria came over on Wednesday. She swept through the penthouse like she owned it, already rearranging furniture. Commenting on the dreadful ethnic artwork Zoya had hung in the hallway. Ethan had them taken down that same day, by Friday. There was no trace of Zoya left in the main house, except the faint smell of sandalwood that lingered in the master bedroom closet. "I can still smell her," Victoria complained, spraying French perfume like she was exorcising a demon. "You need to get this place professionally cleaned. That curry smell just clings." Ethan said nothing. Zoya had never cooked curry in this house. She had learned to make his favorite meals instead. Medium, rare steak, Caesar salad, pasta carbonara. But he didn't correct Victoria. It was easier to let her create whatever narrative she wanted. On day 12, Ethan saw Zoya in the garden. He was having his morning coffee on the terrace when she emerged from the guest house. She wore a simple white dress that hung looser than it should have. Her hair was uncovered, falling in natural waves down her back. She looked thinner, much thinner. She was planting something. He watched as she knelt in the dirt with her bare hands, digging small holes and placing seeds with careful precision. There was something ritualistic about her movements, like she was performing a sacred ceremony. What is she doing? Victoria appeared beside him, her voice sharp with irritation. "I don't know." He kept his eyes on Zoya's figure. "She's staying in the guest house for a few more weeks. Per our agreement. You're letting her stay." Victoria's perfectly shaped eyebrows shot up. "Ethan, that's pathetic. Just pay her extra and kick her out. She'll be gone soon enough." "Not soon enough for me." Victoria turned away, her heels clicking on the marble. "I'm not planning our future with your past, still living in the backyard like some kind of squatter." That afternoon, Victoria threw a party. She didn't ask Ethan. She informed him. 30 of Manhattan's elite crowded into the penthouse, drinking champagne that cost more per bottle than most people made in a month. Victoria was in her element, showing off the space like it was already hers. "Ethan, darling, tell everyone about the merger." She pulled him into a group of his business associates. He launched into the story automatically. The words came easily. This was his language: profit margins, market dominance, hostile takeovers. These people understood him. They valued the same things he did. Power, success, legacy. "Is it true your wife was some kind of immigrant?" one of the women asked, her voice dripping with false sweetness.
"How exotic!"
"Ex-wife," Victoria corrected sharply. "And yes, she was very rustic. Ethan has much better taste now." They all laughed. Ethan should have felt something. Pride, maybe. Satisfaction at having Victoria by his side, claiming him in front of everyone. But instead, he felt hollow, like he was watching his life happen to someone else. "I need some air," he muttered, extracting himself from the group. He stepped onto the terrace and immediately saw her. Zoya stood near the guest house, barely visible in the fading light. She was watching the party through the windows, not with longing or sadness, but with something else. Pity, maybe. Or perhaps just quiet observation. Like an anthropologist studying a foreign tribe, their eyes met across the garden. She didn't look away. She didn't cry. She simply held his gaze for a long moment, then turned and walked back into the guest house, closing the door softly behind her. Something about that moment lodged itself in Ethan's chest like a splinter. Inside, Victoria's laughter rang out, high and sharp. Someone dropped a glass, and it shattered on the marble. The sound made him flinch. The next morning, he found Zoya collapsed in the garden. He had gone out early, before Victoria woke up, telling himself he was just checking on the landscaping. The truth was he couldn't stop thinking about the way Zoya had looked at him the night before. Like she could see straight through him to something rotten underneath. She was lying beside her newly planted garden, one hand stretched toward the seedlings. Her white dress was stained with dirt and something darker. Blood.
Zoya!
He ran to her before he could think better of it. She was breathing but unconscious. Her skin was cold and pale, almost gray. He scooped her up. She weighed nothing, like holding a bird, and carried her inside the guest house. The space shocked him. He hadn't been inside since she moved in. It was sparse but carefully arranged. There were flowers in a simple vase, books stacked neatly on the floor, and on the small table, medication bottles. So many bottles. He laid her on the bed and grabbed his phone, but her hand shot out and caught his wrist with surprising strength. Don't. Her eyes opened, focusing on him with effort. No hospitals. You're bleeding. You passed out. I need you to leave. She pulled her hand back and turned her face to the wall. Please, Ethan, just go. What's wrong with you? The question came out harder than he intended. Are you sick? Does it matter? She didn't look at him. You made it clear I don't matter. So whether I'm sick or not is irrelevant. That's not what was he doing? Why did he care? Fine. But if you die in my guest house, it becomes my problem. So try not to do that. He left, slamming the door harder than necessary. Victoria was awake when he returned to the penthouse. Where were you? Dealing with landscaping issues. She wrinkled her nose. That's what staff is for, darling. Don't tell me you were checking on her. Of course not. But that night, he couldn't sleep. He stood at his window, staring at the guest house. The light was on. Through the thin curtains, he could see Zoya's shadow moving slowly, like every step took enormous effort. He poured himself a drink, then another. By his third, he convinced himself he didn't care if she was sick. She had probably caught some common illness and was being dramatic. That's what Victoria said when he casually mentioned Zoya looked unwell. She's probably faking it for sympathy, Victoria had said, examining her manicure. Or drugs. I bet she's on drugs. You should have her tested. Include in the divorce settlement. Proof she's an unfit mother. That way, if she tries to come after you for child support, you'll have ammunition. The divorce is already finalized. Even better. Then you don't have to care what happens to her. But he did care. That was the problem. Not because he loved her. He was sure he didn't. Sure he never had. But because something about the way she held herself, the quiet dignity with which she accepted her exile, made him feel like the villain in a story he didn't remember signing up for. On day 20, a man showed up at the guest house. Ethan was working in his home office when he saw the black Mercedes pull up the drive. A tall man in an expensive suit got out, carrying a medical bag. He walked directly to the guest house without hesitation, like he had been there before. Rage exploded in Ethan's chest. She was seeing someone already. She was probably planning to pass off his child as some other man's. This was exactly the kind of manipulation Victoria had warned him about. He stormed across the garden, not bothering with a jacket despite the October chill. He didn't knock. He threw the door open so hard it bounced off the wall. Zoya was sitting on the bed. The man was beside her, checking her pulse with gentle, practiced fingers. They both looked up at the intrusion. "What the hell is this?" Ethan's voice came out as a roar. The man stood slowly, his face shifting from concern to something cold and dangerous. He was tall, maybe even taller than Ethan, with the same sharp features and grey eyes. But where Ethan's eyes were cold, this man's held controlled fury. "Hello, little brother." The words hit Ethan like a physical blow. He stared at the man, his brain struggling to process what he was seeing. Marcus. Dr. Marcus Reed, Ethan's older brother by 7 years. The golden child who had walked away from the Miller fortune to become a doctor. The son their father had disowned for choosing purpose over profit. Ethan hadn't seen him in almost a decade. "What are you doing here?" Ethan's voice came out strangled. Marcus looked at him with undisguised disgust. "What do you think I'm doing?" "I'm checking on my patient." "Your patient?" Ethan's eyes snapped to Zoya. "You know him?" She said nothing. Her face was calm, almost serene. Like she had expected this confrontation. "Of course she knows me." Marcus set down his stethoscope with careful precision. "I'm her oncologist." The word hung in the air like a bomb waiting to detonate. Ethan heard it but couldn't process it. "Oncologist. Cancer doctor. What are you talking about?" Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You really don't know, do you? You're so busy playing billionaire games that you didn't even notice your wife is dying." The world tilted. Ethan grabbed the doorframe to steady himself. "That's not possible. She's fine. She has 3 months to live." Marcus said it brutally, without softness. "Stage 4, glioblastoma. A brain tumor the size of my fist. It's killing her, Ethan. Every single day, it's eating away at her brain. And she's letting it because treating it would kill the baby." Ethan's knees went weak. He looked at Zoya, searching for denial in her face. But she just stared back at him with those dark, knowing eyes. "You're lying," he whispered. Marcus pulled out a tablet and shoved it toward Ethan. "There's her MRI. See that shadow? That's death, brother. That's what you're too blind to notice, while you're parading your mistress around upstairs." Ethan stared at the image. The white mass blooming like a poisonous flower in the grey tissue of her brain. His brain couldn't make sense of it. This had to be a mistake. A manipulation. "She's faking this." He looked at Marcus desperately. "She's trying to—" Marcus moved so fast Ethan didn't see it coming. His fist connected with Ethan's jaw, sending him staggering backward. The pain was sharp and real, cutting through the fog. "Don't you dare." Marcus's voice was deadly quiet. "Don't you dare accuse her of faking this. She came to me 2 months ago, terrified and alone. She begged me not to tell you, because she didn't want your pity. She asked me for one thing, to help her stay alive long enough to deliver your child safely. That's it. That's all she wants. To die giving life to the baby of a man who threw her away like garbage." Ethan touched his jaw, tasting blood. "Why didn't she tell me? Why would she?" Zoya spoke for the first time, her voice soft but cutting. "You made it very clear you don't want this child. Why would I tell you I'm dying to give you what you don't even want? But you could get treatment. Treatment would kill the baby." Marcus interrupted. "Radiation, chemotherapy, it would end the pregnancy immediately. She chose life over her own life. That's the woman you're divorcing, Ethan. Someone who values an unwanted child more than her own survival." Ethan felt like he was drowning. The walls were closing in. This couldn't be real. There has to be another way. Private doctors, experimental treatments. I'm the best in my field. Marcus's voice was ice. And I'm telling you, there's no way to save them both. She's made her choice. The only question is whether you're man enough to respect it. Ethan looked at Zoya. Really looked at her for the first time in months. The weight loss, the pale skin, the way she moved carefully, like her head hurt. All the signs had been there. He had just chosen not to see them. Why? The word came out broken. Why would you sacrifice yourself for a child I said I didn't want? She smiled then, and it was the saddest thing Ethan had ever seen. Because I want him. Because he's half of me. And because maybe, just maybe, he'll grow up to be nothing like you. Marcus helped her lie back down. You need to rest. The episodes are getting worse. I know. She closed her eyes. Thank you for coming, Marcus. Always. He kissed her forehead with a gentleness that made Ethan's chest ache. Then he turned to his brother. Get out. She needs peace, not whatever toxic energy you brought with you. Ethan stumbled out of the guest house. The autumn air hit him like a slap. He made it 3 steps before he vomited into the garden, retching up coffee and bile and the realization that he had become a monster. Behind him, the guest house light went out, and in the darkness, Zoya whispered to the baby growing inside her, "Your father doesn't know it yet, but he's going to love you. Because you're going to be everything good that he's forgotten how to be." Upstairs in the penthouse, Victoria was planning their engagement party, completely unaware that the world had just shifted on its axis. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat in his office, staring at Marcus's business card. Dr. Marcus Reed, Oncology. Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. The prestigious address mocked him. His brother had built something real while Ethan had built an empire of paper and ego. He kept pulling up the image on his phone, the MRI Marcus had sent him before leaving. The tumor looked like a white spider, spreading its legs through grey matter. Each tendril was destroying the woman who slept 50 yards away from where he sat. Come to bed. Victoria appeared in silk pajamas, her voice sultry. You've been in here for hours. I'm working. You're brooding. She walked behind his chair, draping her arms around his shoulders. Is this about her? The squatter. Don't call her that. The sharpness in his voice surprised them both. Victoria pulled back. Excuse me. Her name is Zoya. I know her name, darling. I just don't care. She moved to pour herself a drink. I heard you were at the guest house today. Please tell me you're not getting sentimental. He should tell her. Should explain that Zoya was dying, that everything was different now. But Victoria's face was already arranged in an expression of bored irritation, like he was discussing something tedious. The divorce is final, he said instead. That's what matters. Good. She kissed the top of his head. Because I've invited everyone to the engagement party next weekend. It's going to be spectacular. A real statement about new beginnings. After she left, Ethan walked to his window. The guest house was dark. He imagined Zoya in there, alone with her death sentence and her stubborn love for a child that would kill her. He had 3 months. That's what Marcus said. Maybe less. The next morning, everything got worse. Victoria's friends descended on the penthouse like a swarm of designer locusts. They were planning the engagement party, and Victoria insisted they use the entire property, including the gardens, which meant they needed the guest house cleared. It's such an eyesore. One of Victoria's friends declared, a woman named Bethany with too much Botox and not enough self-awareness. Can't we just pay her to leave early? She has a contract. Ethan said, his jaw tight. Then break it. Victoria waved her hand dismissively. Offer her 100,000. Poor people can't resist that kind of money. Something snapped in Ethan. The way they talked about Zoya, like she was a stain to be removed, a problem to be solved. It was exactly how he had talked about her. He heard his own cruelty reflected back in their casual contempt. She stays until her 90 days are up. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Are you serious right now? Completely. Fine. Victoria's smile turned sharp. Then she can make herself useful. That's how Zoya ended up serving at Victoria's pre-engagement party 3 days later. Ethan arrived home from a meeting to the penthouse full of Victoria's friends. And there, moving through the crowd with a tray of champagne, was Zoya. She wore a simple black dress and white apron. Her hair was pulled back severely. She looked like a ghost playing the part of a servant. Her movements slow and deliberate, like each step required concentration. Isn't this perfect? Victoria appeared at his elbow, her voice bright with malice. She was just sitting in that guest house, doing nothing. I thought, why not give her a chance to earn her keep? She seems grateful for the work. Ethan watched as Bethany snapped her fingers at Zoya, demanding more champagne. Zoya moved to refill her glass, and he saw her hand trembling. Not from nerves. From the tumor pressing against her motor cortex, stealing her coordination. This needs to stop. His voice came out low and dangerous. Stop. Victoria laughed. Darling, this was her idea. She said she wanted to help. Didn't you? She called across the room to Zoya. Zoya looked up. Her eyes met Ethan's, and in them he saw something that made his blood run cold. Pity. She pitied him. I offered to help. Zoya confirmed, her voice steady. It's the least I can do. See. Victoria turned back to him triumphantly. Even she knows her place. The party continued. Ethan stood paralyzed, watching his ex-wife serve the woman who had replaced her. Victoria's friends treated Zoya like furniture, sometimes worse. They made crude jokes about her accent, about her brown skin, about how Ethan had traded up. And through it all, Zoya maintained that haunting smile, like she was above it all, like their cruelty couldn't touch her because she existed on a different plane entirely. You know what I heard? One of Victoria's friends stage whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. She trapped him with a pregnancy. That's why he divorced her. The baby probably isn't even his. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. He opened his mouth to defend Zoya, but before he could speak, she did something unexpected. She laughed. It wasn't bitter or angry. It was genuine, almost musical. You're right, she said calmly. I did trap him. I trapped him in kindness when he wanted cruelty. I trapped him in loyalty when he wanted freedom. I trapped him in unconditional love when he wanted transactions. What a terrible trap to set. The room went silent. Victoria's smile froze on her face. Zoya set down her tray carefully. Thank you for letting me serve tonight. It reminded me of something important. You can dress people in expensive clothes and teach them expensive words, but you can't buy class. You can't purchase grace. and you certainly can't buy a soul. Excuse me. She walked out of the penthouse with her head high, leaving a room full of people who suddenly felt very small. Ethan followed her. He couldn't help himself. She was halfway across the garden when he caught up to her. Zoya? Wait. She turned slowly. In the moonlight, she looked almost translucent. What do you want, Ethan? I'm sorry. I didn't know Victoria would... What? Humiliate me? Treat me like dirt. She smiled, that sad smile again. You spent 2 years teaching her exactly how to treat me, Ethan. She's just following your lesson plan. That's not fair. Isn't it? She swayed slightly, and he reached out to steady her. She pulled away from his touch like it burned. You threw divorce papers at me. You told me I wasn't good enough to be your wife. You said you didn't want our child. What did Victoria do that was worse than what you already did? I didn't know you were sick. And that matters. Her voice rose for the first time. If I was healthy, would it be okay to treat me like garbage? Does my death sentence suddenly make me worthy of basic human decency? He had no answer for that. I need to rest. She turned toward the guest house. Enjoy your party, Ethan. Enjoy your new life. I hope it makes you happy. She took 3 steps and collapsed. Ethan caught her before she hit the ground. Her body seized in his arms, muscles contracting violently. Her eyes rolled back. Foam appeared at the corners of her mouth.
Zoy!
He lowered her to the grass, turning her on her side like some instinct told him to. Someone call 911? But no one came. The party continued inside, music and laughter drowning out his shouts. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands and called Marcus. She's seizing. I don't know what to do. Please tell me what to do. Marcus's voice came through calm and professional. Listen to me carefully. Time the seizure. If it goes longer than 5 minutes, call an ambulance. Keep her on her side. Make sure she's breathing. Don't put anything in her mouth. Ethan counted seconds that felt like hours. Zoya's body jerked and twisted. He held her as gently as he could, whispering words that made no sense. Please don't die. Not like this. Not yet. At 4 minutes and 30 seconds, the seizure stopped. Zoya went limp, her breathing shallow but regular. Her eyes opened slightly, unfocused. Ethan. She sounded like a child. Confused. Scared. I'm here. I've got you. I had the dream again. The one where we're happy. Where you love me. A tear slid down her temple. Why does my brain keep torturing me with that dream? His throat closed up. I'm calling an ambulance. No. Her hand found his wrist with surprising strength. No hospitals. I just need rest. Help me to the guest house, please. He carried her. She weighed nothing. Less than nothing. A body already halfway to ash. Inside the guest house, he laid her on the bed. He saw the medication bottles on the nightstand now. Anti-seizure medication. Pain medication. Steroids to reduce brain swelling. An entire pharmacy keeping her alive day by day. Why are you being kind to me now? She asked, her voice slurred from the seizure. I don't know. Guilt is not the same as caring, Ethan. Her eyes closed. You don't get to feel better about yourself by helping me now. I don't want your guilt. I don't want your pity. I wanted your love, and you couldn't give me that. So now I just want you to leave me alone. Zoya, please go. She turned her face to the wall. I'm tired of being your redemption arc. I'm tired of being the lesson you learn. I'm just tired. He stood there for a long moment, watching her breathe. Then he walked out, closing the door softly behind him. Back at the penthouse, the party was still going. Victoria found him immediately. "Where did you disappear to?" "Zoya had a medical emergency." "Oh." Victoria's face showed the appropriate concern, but her eyes were cold. "Is she okay?" "No. She's dying." "What?" "Brain cancer. Stage 4. She has 3 months to live. Maybe less." He expected shock, sympathy, something human. Instead, Victoria's face cycled through several emotions before landing on irritation. "Are you seriously telling me this now?" In the middle of our party, Ethan stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Really seeing her. The beautiful mask over the hollow center. "Get out." "What?" "Get out of my house." "The party's over. Everyone needs to leave." "Ethan, you're being ridiculous. You're letting her manipulate you even now." "GTOT!" His voice echoed off marble and glass. Victoria's face went white with rage. "You're going to regret this. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are." "They already know," he said quietly. "I'm the kind of man who throws away treasure because he's too blind to see it. Now get out before I have security remove you." She left in a fury, her friends trailing behind her like confused ducklings. The penthouse emptied in minutes. Ethan stood alone in the silence, surrounded by half-empty champagne glasses and the ruins of his performance as a happy man. He walked to his window. The guest house light was on. Through the thin curtains, he could see Zoya's shadow. She was sitting up, writing something. Even now, even after a seizure that could have killed her, she was writing. He would learn later that she was writing letters. One for every month of their child's life until he turned 18. 12 letters per year, 216 letters total. Each one filled with love and wisdom and the desperate hope that her son would grow up to be better than his father. But Ethan didn't know that yet. All he knew was that he had spent 2 years married to an angel and had treated her like a burden. And now he had 90 days, minus 30 already gone, to figure out how to live with that truth. In the guest house, Zoya finished her letter and sealed it. Month 7, she wrote on the envelope. "When you start to doubt yourself." She placed it with the others in a box under her bed. Then she took her medication and closed her eyes, praying for one more day to love the child who would never remember her. Days 30, 5 through 50. 5 passed in a fog of tension. Ethan broke up with Victoria publicly and spectacularly. She responded by telling everyone that he was unstable, that he was having a breakdown over his ethnic ex-wife. The society pages had a field day. His phone exploded with messages from business associates concerned about his judgment. He ignored all of it. Instead, he found himself watching the guest house. Not in a creepy way, he told himself. Just checking. Making sure Zoya was okay. Which was ridiculous because she clearly wasn't okay. She was dying. But the idea that she might die alone, without anyone noticing, made his chest tight with something he couldn't name. He saw Marcus's car twice more. Each visit lasted hours. Ethan wanted to go over there, to demand updates, to do something. But Zoya had made it clear she wanted nothing from him. So he watched from a distance like a ghost haunting his own property. On day 43, a new person appeared. Ethan was in his office when he heard the knock on his door. Not the doorbell, the actual door to his private office. No one came to this door except staff, and staff always announced themselves first. He opened it to find a woman he didn't recognize. She was maybe 60, with brown skin and grey hair pulled back in a bun. She wore a simple salwar kameez and carried herself with quiet authority. "Mr. Miller," she said with a slight accent. Zoya's aunt. His heart stopped. "Does she know you're here?" "No. And I would appreciate if you did not tell her." Mira walked past him into the office without waiting for an invitation. She looked around at the expensive furniture, the view, the obvious wealth. Her expression remained neutral. "I came because Marcus called me. He is worried about her, and he thought I should know what is happening. I didn't know she had family in New York. I am all she has." Mira sat down in one of his leather chairs. "Her parents disowned her when she married you. A Muslim girl marrying a white American man who barely paid their family any respect. They said she was dead to them. So she came to me." The words hit him like stones. "I didn't know." "There is much you do not know, Mr. Miller. But I am not here to scold you. I am here to ask you something important." She leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "Are you going to let her die alone? She doesn't want me around." "I did not ask what she wants. I asked what you are going to do." Mira's voice was firm. "That girl sacrificed everything for you. Her family, her culture, her sense of self. She tried to become what you wanted. And when that was not enough, she signed your papers without a fight, because she loved you too much to trap you. Now she is dying to give you a son you said you did not want. So I ask again, are you going to let her die alone?" Ethan's throat felt like sandpaper. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to be a man instead of a coward." Mira stood. "I want you to go to her and apologize. I want you to sit with her in her final days. I want you to make sure she knows that her life mattered to someone. Can you do that, Mr. Miller? Or is your pride more important than her peace?" She didn't wait for an answer. She walked to the door, then paused. "She keeps a garden. Did you know that? I saw her planting something. She is planting flowers for your son. Roses, because they are strong. Jasmine, because they smell like home. Marigolds, because they bloom even in death. She will never see them grow. But she wants your son to have beauty around him. That is the kind of woman you threw away, Mr. Miller. Remember that?" Mira left, and Ethan stood alone in his office, feeling like he'd been stripped down to his bones. That night, he did something he hadn't done since the divorce. He cooked, nothing fancy, just dal and rice, following a recipe he found online. It took 3 tries to get the spices right. The kitchen filled with the smell of cumin and turmeric. He burned the first batch, oversalted the second. The third one was barely edible, but it was something. He put it in a container and walked across the garden. The November air was bitter cold. His breath came out in clouds. The guest house looked warm and inviting, light spilling from the windows. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again. "Zoya, it's Ethan. I brought food." The door opened. Zoya stood there in an oversized sweater and leggings. Her hair was uncovered, wild and curly. She looked thinner than ever, her cheekbones too sharp, her eyes too large in her face, but she was still beautiful, heartbreakingly beautiful. "What do you want?" Her voice was tired. "I brought dinner. I made it myself. It's probably terrible, but..." You cooked. Something flickered in her eyes. Surprise? Maybe. Dal. Or my terrible attempt at it. I remember you said it was comfort food. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. Come in. The guest house smelled like sandalwood incense and something medicinal. She had made it cozy with throws and pillows. Books were everywhere. A notebook sat open on the table, covered in her handwriting. He set the container on the small kitchenette counter. I don't expect you to eat it. I wanted to do something. Why? She sat down slowly, like her bones hurt. Because you're dying, and I didn't know, and I feel like the worst person alive. So this is about your guilt. Yes. He sat across from her. And no? I don't know. I keep thinking about what you said. That I taught Victoria how to treat you. You were right. I did. I treated you like you were less than me. Like your love was worthless, because it came without a price tag. And now you realize I had value because I'm dying. That's not redemption, Ethan. That's just regret. I know. He met her eyes. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I don't deserve to sit here and feel sorry for myself. But I can't stop thinking about you alone in this house. And it's killing me. Well, now you know how it feels. Her voice was sharp. To have something killing you from the inside. They sat in silence. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. The dial is probably cold. He finally said, probably. But she stood and opened the container. Steam rose from it. She got a spoon and took a small bite. Her face went through several expressions. This is terrible. I know. You put too much salt. And not enough garam masala. And I think you burned the garlic. I know. She took another bite. Then another. But it's the best thing anyone has made for me in 2 years. Her eyes filled with tears. She set down the spoon and covered her face with her hands. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. Ethan sat frozen, not knowing what to do. Then instinct took over. He moved to her side and pulled her into his arms. She resisted for only a second before collapsing against him. I'm so scared, she whispered. I'm so scared, Ethan. I don't want to die. I don't want to leave my baby. I don't want to stop existing. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Why didn't you love me? The question came out broken. What was so wrong with me that you couldn't love me? Nothing. Nothing was wrong with you. He held her tighter. Everything wrong was with me. I was too stupid and too proud to see what I had. I thought love was supposed to be hard and complicated. I didn't understand that you were giving me the real thing. And I kept looking for something fake, because fake was all I knew. She pulled back and looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. You can't fix this with pretty words, Ethan. You can't make this okay. I know. Then why are you here? Because Mira asked me if I was going to let you die alone. And I realize the answer is no. I can't fix what I did. I can't give you back the 2 years I wasted. But I can be here now. If you'll let me. Zoya searched his face for a long moment. What about Victoria? We're done. We've been done. She was everything you weren't, and I thought that's what I wanted. But being with her was like drowning in diamonds. Expensive and suffocating and ultimately empty. That's very poetic for a man who trades in corporate mergers. Trying, she almost smiled. Then winced, her hand going to her temple. Headache? He asked. They're getting worse. Marcus says the tumor is growing faster now. I can feel it sometimes, pressing against things, making words harder to find, making my hands shake. What can I do? Nothing. There's nothing anyone can do. She stood carefully. Thank you for the doll, and for coming over. But you should go now. I need to rest. Can I come back tomorrow? She hesitated. Why would you want to? Because I spent 2 years not seeing you. And now I only have 2 months left. And I don't want to waste any more time. We're divorced, Ethan. You don't owe me anything. This isn't about owing. This is about wanting. He moved toward the door, then turned back. I know I have no right to ask this, but can we just be, I don't know, friends? Can you let me be here for what's left? Zoya wrapped her arms around herself. I don't know if I can do that. Every time I look at you, it hurts. It reminds me of everything I lost, everything I'll never have. Then don't look at me. Just let me be in the room. Let me help with small things. Let me make terrible food and sit quietly and just be present. Please? She was quiet for so long he thought she would say no. Then she nodded once, barely perceptible. Okay. But Ethan, don't fall in love with me now. I don't have the energy to deal with your guilt disguised as affection. If you're going to be here as a friend, nothing more. I can do that. He left feeling lighter than he had in weeks. He didn't examine why. Didn't question the relief that flooded through him at the idea of being allowed back into her orbit. In the guest house, Zoya sat down and picked up the dal container. She ate the rest of it slowly, even though it was terrible, because it was the first time in 2 years that Ethan had done something just for her. She didn't let herself hope. Hope was dangerous when you had a death sentence. But maybe, just maybe, she could have a friend for the time she had left. That was enough. It had to be enough. Outside, the first snow of the season began to fall on Manhattan, covering everything in white, making the world look clean and new, even when underneath everything was the same. In his penthouse, Ethan stood at the window and watched the snow fall on Zoya's garden. The seedlings she'd planted were tiny and fragile, barely visible under the gathering white. He made a decision. Tomorrow he would hire a gardener. Someone who would make sure those flowers grew. Someone who would make sure his son had the beauty Zoya wanted to give him. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Ethan became a fixture at the guest house. Every morning before work, he'd knock with coffee and something for breakfast. Sometimes it was bagels from her favorite place in Brooklyn. He'd had to call Mira to find out where. Sometimes it was fruit he'd cut up himself, arranged badly in a bowl. Once he brought fresh pani puri from an Indian street vendor, and Zoya had laughed, actually laughed, at his pronunciation when he tried to order it. You said, I poo. Like you're speaking French, she teased, her eyes bright for the first time in weeks. I was trying to be respectful. You were trying to survive. But she ate every bite, even though they made her stomach hurt. Marcus came twice a week now. Ethan always found an excuse to be nearby, not hovering but present. He learned to read the tightness around Marcus's eyes, the way his jaw clenched when the news was bad. Her cognitive function is declining, Marcus told him one evening after an exam. They stood in the garden, out of earshot from the guest house. She's having trouble with words. Short-term memory is fragmenting. Last week she couldn't remember what day it was. Is she in pain? Yes. But she won't increase her medication because she's worried about the baby. She's being stubborn. She's being herself. Ethan kicked at the frozen ground. Can't you convince her? You think I haven't tried? Marcus's voice was sharp. She's made her choice, Ethan. She's choosing him over herself every single day. The least we can do is respect that, even if it kills us to watch. How long? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. 6 weeks, maybe less. The seizures are getting more frequent. Her body is starting to shut down. We're not aiming for her to survive anymore. We're aiming for the baby to be viable. 32 weeks minimum. She's at 28 now. Every day is a victory. Ethan felt something crack inside his chest. She's going to die before he's born. Probably. If we're lucky, we can do an emergency C-section at 34 weeks. She might be conscious for it. She might get to hear him cry once before. Marcus couldn't finish the sentence. Before what? Before the tumor takes her ability to understand what's happening. Before she forgets who she is. Brain cancer is cruel, Ethan. It doesn't just kill you. It erases you piece by piece until there's nothing left but biology. Marcus turned away, his voice thick. I've lost patients before. Hundreds of them. But watching her. She's the bravest person I've ever met. And I can't save her. I can't do a damn thing except keep her comfortable while she slowly disappears. Ethan wanted to say something comforting, but words felt inadequate. Instead, he just stood there with his brother in the cold. Two men helpless against death. Inside the guest house, Zoya was writing another letter. Her handwriting was getting messier, harder to read. She had to stop frequently to remember what word came next. But she kept going. Month 12. She wrote, Your first birthday. I wish I could see it. I wish I could see you smash cake in your hair and laugh with your whole body. Your father is going to throw you the biggest party. Make sure he doesn't go overboard. You don't need a pony or a celebrity entertainer. You just need people who love you. That's all any of us need. On day 67, everything changed. Ethan arrived in the morning to find the guest house door open. He felt a spike of panic and ran inside. Zoya was on the floor, curled in a ball, sobbing. Not the quiet, dignified crying he'd seen before. This was raw and animal, the sound of someone breaking apart.
Zoya!
He dropped to his knees beside her. What's wrong? Are you hurt? She looked at him with wild, unfocused eyes. Can't remember what. My mother's face. The words came out strangled. I've been trying to picture her all morning, and I can't see her. I know she existed. I know she had brown eyes and a mole on her left cheek. But I can't see her, Ethan. The tumor is eating my memories, and I can't stop it. He pulled her into his arms, and she clung to him like he was the only solid thing in a dissolving world. Tell me about her, he said. Tell me everything you remember. So she did. She talked for hours, the words tumbling out in a desperate rush. She told him about her mother's cooking, the way she sang while washing dishes, the smell of jasmine oil in her hair. She talked until her voice was hoarse, trying to cement the memories in place through the act of speaking them aloud. Ethan listened to every word. He asked questions. He helped her remember. And when she finally fell asleep from exhaustion, he wrote everything down in a notebook. so that if she forgot again, he could remind her. The next morning, he came back with something unexpected. A woman in her 50s with a professional camera. "This is Diana," he explained. "She's a documentary filmmaker. I hired her to interview you. To record your voice, your stories, everything you want your son to know. So he can hear it from you. So you'll never really be gone." Zoya stared at him, tears streaming down her face. "You did this for me. For both of you. Will you do it?" She nodded, unable to speak. For the next 2 weeks, Diana came every day. She filmed Zoya talking to the camera, like she was talking to her son. She recorded lullabies in Urdu. Stories about Zoya's childhood in Pakistan before her family moved to New York. Advice about heartbreak and courage and choosing kindness even when the world is cruel. "Don't be like your father," Zoya said into the camera one afternoon, her voice weak but steady. "Well, don't be like who he was. Maybe he'll change. Maybe losing me will wake him up to what matters. But if he doesn't, promise me you'll be different. Promise me you'll see people's hearts, not their bank accounts. That you'll choose love over fear. That you'll be brave enough to be vulnerable. Can you promise me that, Beta?" Ethan watched from the doorway, his throat tight. He had started joining the sessions, sitting just out of frame. Sometimes Zoya would look at him while she talked, and he knew she was really speaking to him as much as to their unborn son. On day 78, Mira invited Ethan to dinner. He arrived at her small apartment in Queens, nervous in a way he hadn't been since his first business pitch. The apartment smelled like spices and warmth. Photos covered the walls, Zoya as a child, smiling and gap-toothed. Zoya as a teenager, serious and beautiful. Zoya on her wedding day, standing alone because Ethan hadn't invited anyone from his side. "Sit," Mira commanded, gesturing to a low table covered with food. "You are too thin." "Guilt makes a poor meal." He sat. She served him plate after plate of food he didn't know the names of. Rice and curry, and naan that melted in his mouth. She didn't speak while he ate, just watched him with those sharp, knowing eyes. Finally, when he'd cleaned his third plate, she spoke. "You love her now?" It wasn't a question, but he answered anyway. "Yes." "Too late." "I know. Good. At least you are not delusional." She poured them both chai. "But better late than too late. At least she will die knowing someone saw her true worth." "I don't know how to live with this." The confession burst out of him. "I don't know how to watch her disappear and know it's partially my fault." "It is not partially your fault. The cancer is not your fault. But her loneliness, her pain, that is yours." Mira's voice was hard but not unkind. "You must carry that, Mr. Miller. You must let it change you. That is how you honor her sacrifice." "I don't know how to change." "Then learn. For your son. He will need a father who knows how to love without conditions. Can you be that man?" "I don't know." "Then figure it out quickly. You do not have much time." They sat in silence, drinking chai, while outside the city rumbled on, indifferent to their private tragedy. On day 82, Zoya had another massive seizure. Marcus rushed over with a portable ultrasound. The baby's heartbeat was strong, a fierce, rapid drumming that filled the guest house. "He's okay," Marcus said, his relief palpable. 31 weeks now. "We're so close." Zoya was barely conscious, her eyes rolling, her words slurred. Will I make it?" Marcus looked at Ethan, then back at her. I don't know, sweetheart. I really don't know. She reached out blindly, and Ethan took her hand. Promise me, she whispered. Promise me you'll love him. Even if he looks like me. Even if he reminds you of your failures. Promise me you'll love him anyway. I promise, Ethan said, his voice breaking. I swear on everything I am, I will love him. I will tell him about you every day. He will know how brave you were, how kind, how you gave up everything so he could live. Not everything. She squeezed his hand weakly. I got to know love, real love. It almost destroyed me, but I got to feel it. That's more than nothing. She fell asleep. Marcus administered medication, adjusted her drip lines, checked her vitals. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, but his face was grey with grief. She's not going to wake up tomorrow, is she? Ethan asked. She might. She's surprised me before. Marcus sat back heavily. But we're out of miracles, Ethan. The tumor is in her brain stem now. It's pressing on everything that keeps her alive. We're at the point where I'm trying to keep her comfortable and keep the baby safe. Those are my only goals now. How long? Days. A week if we're lucky. I need to schedule the C-section for day 80, 7 at the latest. We can't risk waiting longer. Will she be conscious for it? I'll do everything in my power to make sure she is. She deserves to meet him, even if it's only for a minute. Ethan stayed in the guest house that night, sleeping in a chair beside Zoya's bed. He woke every time she moved, every time her breathing changed. At 3 in the morning, she opened her eyes. Ethan. I'm here. I had a dream we were at the ocean. You, me, and a little boy with brown skin and your grey eyes. We were building sandcastles, and we were happy. It felt so real. Maybe it was a memory from the future. A different timeline where I wasn't an idiot. She smiled, her face illuminated by moonlight streaming through the window. In every timeline, I love you. That's the curse and the gift. No matter how badly you hurt me, I can't stop loving you. Isn't that pathetic? No. He moved from the chair to sit on the edge of the bed. It's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me, and I was too broken to recognize it. But I see it now, Zoya. I see you. And I'm sorry it took me so long to open my eyes. Do you love me now? She asked it so quietly he almost didn't hear. He could have lied, could have told her what she wanted to hear to give her peace. But Zoya had always deserved truth, even when truth was painful. I don't know if what I feel is love or grief or guilt, or some combination of all three. But I know that the thought of a world without you in it makes me want to stop breathing. I know that every moment I spend with you now feels like the first real moments of my life. And I know that I will regret every second I didn't cherish you for the rest of my existence. Is that love? Maybe. Or maybe it's just me finally understanding what I lost. She reached up and touched his face. That's honest. Thank you for being honest. I should have been honest 2 years ago. I should have told you that I was broken and empty, and I didn't know how to let someone love me. I should have warned you that I would hurt you. Maybe you would have run. I wouldn't have. She let her hand drop. I was too in love with the idea of saving you. I thought if I just loved you hard enough, you'd become the man I needed. That was my mistake. You can't love someone into being different. They have to want to change. I want to change now. I know. But it's too late for me. So change for him. She placed a hand on her swollen belly. Be the father he deserves. Don't make him earn your love. Just give it freely the way I gave it to you. Can you do that? I'll try. I'll fail sometimes, but I'll try. That's all anyone can do. Her eyes started to close. Ethan, when I'm gone, don't make me into a saint. Tell him the truth. Tell him I was human and flawed, and sometimes petty. Tell him I ate too much ice cream, and cried during every movie and sang off key in the shower. Don't let me be a perfect ghost he can never live up to. Let me be real. I will. I promise. She fell asleep again, and Ethan sat there until dawn, watching her breathe, memorizing every detail of her face, trying to hold on to something that was already slipping away. Outside, the city woke up. People went to work, complained about traffic, bought coffee, lived their lives completely unaware that in a guest house in Manhattan, a woman was preparing to die so her son could live. And somewhere in the universe, if there was any justice at all, that kind of love mattered. That kind of sacrifice meant something. Ethan chose to believe it did. He had to believe it did, because the alternative was unbearable. Chapter 60, The Last Mercy, Day 80. 7 arrived too quickly and too slowly. Time playing tricks in the way it does when you're counting down to an ending. Marcus scheduled the C-section for 2 p.m. She won't make it much longer, he told Ethan the night before. Her brain is swelling. She's barely conscious anymore. But I'll give her enough stimulants to wake her for the delivery. She'll get maybe 5 minutes. 10 if we're lucky. Then her body will shut down. Minutes, Ethan's voice cracked. That's all she gets.
After everything.
That's all any of us get in the end. Marcus put a hand on his brother's shoulder. We spend our whole lives thinking we have time, and then suddenly we're out of it. 5 minutes is more than some people get. We'll make them count. The morning was surreal. Ethan sat with Zoya, who drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes she knew who he was. Sometimes she called him by other names, her father, her brother, people from her past bleeding into her present as her brain misfired and rerouted around the tumor. Mira arrived at 11. She brought clothes, a beautiful green salwar kameez that she carefully dressed Zoya in, braiding her hair with flowers woven through it. She always wanted to look nice for important occasions. Mira explained, her hands gentle. This is the most important day of her life. She should look like herself. Diana came too, with her camera. I'll document everything, she promised. So he'll know. So he'll see how much she loved him from the very first breath. At 1:30, the medical team arrived. Marcus had pulled strings to bring everything they needed to do the delivery at the guest house. A hospital would have been safer, but Zoya had been adamant. She wanted to meet her son in the place she'd chosen to die. The place that had been more home to her than the penthouse ever was. They converted the small bedroom into an operating room. Bright lights, sterile equipment, the smell of antiseptic cutting through the sandalwood incense. It felt wrong, this clinical invasion of Zoya's peaceful space, but necessary. At 1:45, Marcus injected Zoya with a cocktail of stimulants and pain medication. Her eyes opened, clearer than they'd been in days. Ethan. She looked around, confused. What's happening? It's time, he said, taking her hand. It's time to meet him. Understanding dawned on her face, and with it fear. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to leave him. I know, sweetheart, I know. He kissed her forehead. But he's ready to meet you. He's been waiting. Marcus worked quickly, his surgical skills evident in every precise movement. Ethan had seen his brother work before, years ago when they still spoke, but never like this. Never with such focused intensity, knowing that one slip could cost not just a patient, but his sister-in-law and nephew. Scalpel, Marcus said, and the procedure began. Zoya gripped Ethan's hand so hard he thought his bones might break. She didn't cry out, but her whole body was tense, fighting against the invasion, even as she knew it was necessary. "Talk to me," she whispered. "Anything. I need to hear your voice." So Ethan talked. He told her about the garden, how he'd hired the best gardeners in the city to tend her plants, how the roses had survived the winter and would bloom in spring. He told her about the nursery he'd prepared in the penthouse, painted soft blue with stars on the ceiling. He told her he'd named it after her, the Zoya Suite, so their son would always know his mother's name was important enough to name a room after. "You're rambling," she said with the ghost of a smile. "You ramble when you're nervous." "I'm terrified," he admitted. "I'm about to become a father. And you're—" He couldn't finish. "Dying," she finished for him. "You can say it. I've made peace with it." "I haven't. You will." She squeezed his hand. "You'll have to." "For him?" Marcus's voice cut through. "I can see him. One more minute." The room held its breath. Diana filmed from the corner, tears streaming down her face. Mira whispered prayers in Urdu, her voice a quiet counterpoint to the medical beeps and monitors. And then, impossibly, there was crying. Not Zoya's. A baby's cry, fierce and strong, announcing his arrival into a world that had already broken his mother's heart. "It's a boy," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "A healthy baby boy." He cleaned the baby quickly, wrapped him in a soft blanket, and placed him on Zoya's chest. She looked down at her son with an expression Ethan would remember for the rest of his life. Pure love, pure wonder, pure devastating joy mixed with unbearable grief. "Hello, Beta," she whispered. "Hello, my beautiful boy. I've been waiting so long to meet you." The baby stopped crying at the sound of her voice. His tiny hand reached up, fingers grasping at air until Zoya caught them with her own. "Hey has your eyes," she said to Ethan. Grey like storm clouds. But his skin, she touched the baby's brown cheek. "He has my skin. He's perfect. He's absolutely perfect. What should we name him?" Ethan asked, even though his throat felt like it was closing. "Amir," Zoya said without hesitation. "It means prince. Commander, someone who will lead with wisdom and kindness. Amir Ethan Miller. That's his name, Amir." Ethan repeated, testing it. "It's perfect." Marcus worked quietly, finishing the procedure. But Ethan could see the monitors. Could see Zoya's blood pressure dropping. Could see the way her eyes were losing focus. "How long?" He mouthed to his brother. Marcus held up 3 fingers. 3 minutes. Ethan felt something shatter inside him. 3 minutes. A lifetime condensed into 180 seconds. "Zoya," he said urgently. "Look at me." She lifted her eyes from Amir with visible effort. "I'm getting tired, Ethan. I know. But I need to tell you something before you go. I need you to hear this." "What?" "I love you." The words came out broken but true. I didn't know how to love you when you were healthy and whole and giving me everything. But I know now. And it's too late, and I hate myself for that. But I need you to know that I see you now. I see everything you gave me, everything you sacrificed, and I love you for it. I love you for all of it. Tears rolled down her cheeks. You're just saying that because I'm dying. Maybe, but it's still true. You're the best person I've ever known, Zoya, and I was too blind and stupid to see it. But our son, he's going to know. I'm going to tell him every day how brave you were, how kind, how you loved him more than your own life. He'll know, I promise. Don't let him hate me, she whispered, for leaving him, for choosing to have him even though I knew I'd die. Don't let him think I abandoned him. Never. Ethan swore. He'll know you chose him. That every day you lived with that tumor was a day you chose his life over yours. He'll know he was wanted. He'll know he was loved from before his first breath. Amir made a small sound, and Zoya looked down at him one last time. I have to go now, Beta. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I can't stay. But your father will take care of you. He's not perfect, but he's trying. Give him a chance, okay? And know that wherever I am, I'll be watching. I'll be proud of you. I'll be loving you. Always. She kissed Amir's forehead, her lips lingering for a long moment. Then she looked at Ethan. Take him, please. I don't want him to feel me go. Ethan gently lifted Amir from Zoya's chest. The baby protested, crying for his mother. But Ethan held him close, his own tears falling onto his son's head. I've got him, he told Zoya. I've got him, and I won't let go. I promise, she smiled. That's all I needed to hear. Her eyes closed. The monitors beeped frantically. Marcus moved forward, but Mira stopped him with a hand on his arm. Let her go with peace, Mira, said quietly. She's earned it. So they stood there, Ethan, Marcus, Mira, and Diana, witnesses to the end of Zoya Miller's life at 20:17 p.m. on a cold January afternoon. She died like she'd lived the past 90 days, quietly, with dignity, having given everything for someone she loved. Marcus called the time of death, his voice professional even as his hands shook. He closed Zoya's eyes, arranged her carefully, made her look peaceful. She's gone, he said unnecessarily. Ethan couldn't speak. He just held Amir, who had stopped crying and was looking up at him with those grey eyes. His son, Zoya's son, the product of a love he'd thrown away and a sacrifice he'd never deserved. Mira began to pray, the Arabic words washing over them like a blessing. Diana captured it all on film. The grief, the new life, the terrible beauty of birth and death happening in the same breath. Later, after the medical team had taken Zoya's body, after the guest house had been cleaned and emptied, Ethan sat alone in the penthouse holding his son. Amir slept peacefully, unaware that the world had just shifted on its axis. Marcus found him there at midnight. You should sleep. I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see her face. The way she looked at him. Like he was everything she'd ever hoped for. Was. Marcus sat down heavily. She loved that baby more than life itself. Literally, how do I do this? Ethan looked at his brother desperately. How do I raise him without her? How do I make sure he knows her when she's gone? You tell him stories. You show him videos. You let Mira teach him about his heritage. And you love him so fiercely that he never doubts he was wanted. Marcus paused. And you change. Ethan, you become the man she believed you could be. That's how you honor her memory. The months that followed were brutal. Ethan stepped down as CEO, putting someone else in charge, while he figured out how to be a father. The society pages had a field day. Billionaire has breakdown after ex-wife's death. Miller fortune in chaos. What really happened to Zoya Miller? He ignored all of it. He spent his days learning how to change diapers, how to warm bottles, how to hold a baby that's small without breaking him. Mira moved into the penthouse, taking over the guest bedroom. She taught him everything: how to swaddle Amir the way Zoya would have wanted, which lullabies to sing, how to pray over his son even though Ethan wasn't Muslim. It's not about religion, Mira explained. It's about connection. About making sure Amir knows he comes from somewhere, that he has roots in two worlds. Ethan had Zoya's garden moved to the roof. He hired the best horticulturists to ensure every plant she'd touched survived and thrived. By spring, the roof was an explosion of roses, jasmine, and marigolds. He would bring Amir up there every morning, showing him the flowers his mother had planted. "Your mama did this for you," he would say, holding Amir up to smell the jasmine. "She wanted you to know beauty. She wanted you to know love. And even though she can't be here, she left pieces of herself behind. This is one of them." The Zoya Miller Foundation launched 6 months after her death. Every penny of Ethan's personal fortune went into it. Cancer research, support for immigrant families, scholarships for brown girls who wanted to be doctors or artists, or whatever they dreamed of becoming. The foundation's headquarters was in Brooklyn, in a building where one entire wall was covered with photos of Zoya. Zoya laughing, Zoya cooking, Zoya pregnant and glowing, Zoya holding Amir for those precious 3 minutes before she died. Diana's documentary premiered on the first anniversary of Zoya's death. It was called 3 Months, and it destroyed everyone who watched it. Zoya's voice speaking to a son she'd never see grow up. Her courage, her grace, her refusal to be bitter even as death closed in. The documentary ended with Ethan holding newborn Amir, whispering, "Your mother was a queen, and you're her prince. Don't ever forget that." It won every award. But more importantly, it ensured that Zoya's story would never be forgotten. On Amir's first birthday, Ethan threw the party Zoya had described in her letter. Not too big, not too showy. Just family and people who had loved Zoya. Mira made all of Zoya's favorite foods. They sang happy birthday in both English and Urdu. And when Amir smashed his face into the cake, laughing with his whole body, Ethan felt Zoya's presence so strongly he could almost see her smiling in the corner. "I hope I'm doing this right," he whispered to the empty air. "I hope you're proud of him, of me. I'm trying, Zoya. I'm really trying." That night, after everyone had left, Ethan went up to the roof garden with Amir in his arms. The jasmine was in full bloom, the smell almost overwhelming in the warm summer air. "Your mother planted these for you," Ethan told his son, who was already sleepy and heavy in his arms. "She'll never know if they bloomed. But they did, buddy. They bloomed so beautiful it hurts to look at them." He sat down on the bench he'd had installed, made from the wood of a tree in Pakistan, in the village where Zoya's family had lived for generations. Another connection to a past his son deserved to know. "I was a terrible husband," Ethan continued, even though Amir had fallen asleep. But I'm going to be a good father. I'm going to make sure you know where you come from. I'm going to teach you to see people's hearts. I'm going to love you the way she loved you, without conditions, without fear, without holding back. That's my promise to her. And I don't break my promises anymore. The city lights glittered below them. Somewhere in the penthouse, Mira was cleaning up from the party, humming one of Zoya's favorite songs. Somewhere in the universe, if there was any justice, Zoya was at peace knowing her sacrifice hadn't been in vain. Ethan held his son and cried. Not sad tears, exactly. Grateful tears. Because even though he'd lost Zoya, he'd gained something more valuable than all his billions combined. He'd gained a soul. He'd learned what love actually meant. And he'd been given one more chance, in the form of a brown-skinned baby boy with grey eyes to get it right. Thank you, he whispered to the stars, to Zoya, to whatever force had brought him to this moment. Thank you for loving me enough to teach me how to be human. I won't waste it. I swear I won't waste it. Amir stirred in his sleep, his tiny hand gripping Ethan's finger with surprising strength. And somewhere between the jasmine and the city lights and the weight of his son in his arms, Ethan Miller finally understood what it meant to be wealthy. It had nothing to do with money. It had everything to do with this love that costs you everything and gives you even more in return. That was Zoya's final gift to him, and it was priceless. Teach END, in memory of Zoya Miller, who taught a blind man how to see. Her son Amir grew up to become a doctor, just like his uncle Marcus. He specialized in oncology, determined to cure the disease that took his mother. And every single day of his life, he carried his father's stories and his mother's courage, proof that love never truly dies. It just transforms into something new.